Shocking footage showed the moment California woman Deanna Beck was hit by a garbage truck. She was making her way to her Mission Valley apartment complex in San Diego when the truck suddenly backed into her, impaling her with the huge spikes meant to grab and compact trash. In the video, the 41-year-old could be seen walking along a crosswalk in the underground parking area as the garbage truck moved away to her left on February the 5th of 2021. The driver of the vehicle began reversing at speed with Beck glancing over her shoulder. Two large metal tines attached to the back of the vehicle abruptly edged closer towards her before she could react. As Beck was hit with the outstretched tine, she was thrown to the ground by the sheer impact. The woman suffered severe injury to her spine, neck, and tailbone, as well as a traumatic brain injury that caused her neurological issues. Following the horrific collision, she suffered with seizures, insomnia, hearing loss, vertigo, and struggled with post-concussive syndrome. In the aftermath, Beck was unable to go back to work and decided to sue the company, USA Waste of California, Inc., for damages of over $25,000, which would cover medical expenses, lost wages, loss of earning capacity, and general damage. She filed the lawsuit on September the 8th, 2021, alleging the driver was on his phone at the time, which was why she wasn't spotted. Her attorneys claimed that the driver had already been previously reprimanded several times for operating the garbage vehicle while using his mobile phone. The civil jury trial was set to begin in October of 2023. The latest available updates indicated that the case was still pending. Number 16. Yuma Nazarova. While applying for a job at a factory in Borisov, Belarus in early 2022. Yuma Nazarova died after her hair got tangled in a machine, causing her scalp to be ripped off. During Nazarova's job interview at the welding wire and electrode manufacturing company Svarmet, she was being shown around by a factory employee. After momentarily pausing to make a record in a register, the employee turned around to see Nazarova lying on the floor unconscious. Apparently, the 21-year-old's hair had gotten stuck in one of the industrial machines and wrapped around her neck as well, leading to her sustaining serious injuries. Despite being freed from the contraption, Nazarova didn't regain consciousness and eventually died. Following Nazarova's death, her father, Dmitry, lamented the fact that 2 lives were taken during the incident. He revealed that his daughter was 7 weeks pregnant during the incident. In the aftermath, the factory paid for the young woman's funeral. Additionally, a factory official was sentenced for failure to fulfill duties due to a dishonest and negligent attitude, causing the death of a person. It was unclear what penalties the unnamed official received. Number 15. Jamani Thompson. On the night of August 30th, 2022, a baggage handler at Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport got her hair caught on a conveyor belt, resulting in her tragic death. The victim's mother said that her last words to her daughter Jamani Thompson were, "See you when you get home," but she never made it home. At around 10:20 p.m. on the night in question, Thompson was working on the airport's apron. The Louisiana woman was unloading baggage from a Frontier Airlines flight when her hair suddenly got caught in the belt loader machinery at the airport. Her co-workers tried to cut her hair, but they couldn't. They eventually managed to extricate the 26-year-old, but she was already severely injured. Thompson was rushed to Oshner Medical Center, Kenner, where she was pronounced dead. Number 14. Don't apply makeup inside a running vehicle. An accident left a young Thai woman with an eyeliner pencil lodged in her eye after she attempted to apply makeup during a cab ride in the afternoon of June 12, 2018. The unnamed woman, who was in her 20s, had been applying eyeliner in the back of the taxi during a slow-moving traffic jam in Bangkok's Din Dang suburb. The taxi crashed into a pickup truck. The impact of the crash jolted the woman forward, causing her to hit the back of the front seat and thrust in half of the pencil into her left eye socket. Although the victim was in serious pain, she was still able to talk to responding emergency services and explain what had happened. She was taken to the Raja Vithi hospital, where the pencil was removed. without any permanent injuries. According to paramedic Thanabodi Sabodi, the woman's eyesight wasn't affected as the pencil had missed vital parts of her eye. Sabodi noted that the incident should be a lesson for others who make it a habit to apply makeup inside a running vehicle. Number 13. Tanya Patti. Canadian beauty queen and TikTok influencer Tanya Patti tragically perished on August 27, 2022 during a freak skydiving accident. Before attempting a solo dive, Patti had completed training provided by Skydive Toronto in an Ontario town called Innisfil. The New York Post reported that while the 21-year-old was completing her first solo course with the skydiving facility, the dive went south after she opened the parachute too late during her descent. Patti released a quickly rotating main parachute at a low altitude without the time or height required for the reserve parachute to inflate. After the accident, the young woman was rushed to the hospital where she succumbed to injuries sustained in the 4,000-foot fall. Authorities consequently launched a probe into Patti's tragic passing, but the outcome of the investigation was never made clear. Number 12. Toni Brown. Englishwoman Toni Brown was almost blinded when industrial-strength washing-up liquid squirted into her eyes while she was cleaning utensils at a Greg's concession store at the Moto Services garage in Franklin. The incident unfolded in October of 2022 while Brown was working a night shift at the aforementioned establishment located on the M5. She poured washing-up liquid into a sink to clean utensils after baking baguettes. Some of the detergent bounced back up into her face, immediately triggering a burning sensation in her eyes and leaving her unable to see. Brown said that the burning sensation was excruciating. She managed to find a first aid box, but it only contained a single pack of plasters. After calling the National Health Services helpline at 111, she was advised to go to an emergency room. Brown called a taxi to take her to Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, where medics told her that the washing up liquid had burned her corneas. Doctors reportedly spent 6 hours pouring liters of saline solution into her eyes to try and wash out the detergent. The woman was later transferred to Birmingham and Midland Eye Center, where she discovered the liquid should only be handled while wearing PPE for more than a week. Brown was left completely blind with her family washing, dressing, feeding, and moving her around the house. A couple of months later, her eyesight improved, but she was still left with blurry vision in one eye. The 37-year-old said that she took legal action against Moto Services, which consequently admitted a breach of liability for the accident via their insurer. As of October of 2023, a spokeswoman for Moto Service stations told Mail Online that they couldn't discuss the case due to the ongoing legal processes. Number 11. Vehicles falling in the middle of Chinese roads. In June of 2012, a freak accident occurred in Guilin, China, during which a minivan fell straight through a road. The hole had appeared suddenly and seemingly without cause, and the van fell about 1 meter before crashing down on its side. The driver was wounded and taken to a local hospital. A local news source stated that sudden holes in roads were common in the country because of shoddy construction. Authorities blamed bad weather for sudden holes in roads. Similar craters have been known to swallow up entire trucks. The news website posted photos of similar instances that occurred years earlier. The images show trucks falling into craters on the road in September of 2010 and in April and May of 2011. The incidents shown had taken place in Anshan, Lanzhou, Beijing, and Changchun, respectively. Number 10. A real miracle. A group of Australian teens out on a trip narrowly escaped with their lives after a tree branch speared through the windscreen of their car near Lake Mackenzie on K'gari, Queensland. The incident took place on the afternoon of November 22nd, 2023. While 4 girls were heading back to their resort at Yurong, a massive branch collided with the vehicle's windscreen and plunged into the headrest of the front passenger seat. Luckily, the girl who'd been sitting in the seat at the time managed to get out of the way and no one was sitting at the back before the branch plowed straight through and into the back seat. Rescuers from the youth group, Red Frogs, were alerted to the crash and rushed to the scene to help the group. They got a tractor to pull the branch out, then drove the shell-shocked girls back to Yurong. According to Red Frog's CEO, Andrew Gawley, the branch had fallen onto the dirt road the night before during a storm. Gawley added that the group didn't go expressly fast or anything. They just didn't see that branch coming out because of all the trees everywhere. He further stated that it was a real miracle that no one was injured. Number 9. Jessica Lally. In October of 2021, Englishwoman Jessica Lally died after falling from a bucking bronco ride at an American-themed bar in Sheffield. The 26-year-old and her friends had been on a night out at the Broncos Rodeo Bar on West Street. The bar had a mechanical bull that customers could ride, and Lally decided to give it a go. She fell off the ride, which is the usual course of things, but suffered cardiac arrest almost immediately. A spokesperson for the bar said that Lally received medical help but sadly passed away. The spokesperson also said that the victim passed all of the safety checks and that the mechanical bull had been set on the slowest speed, which had mainly been used for photos. In the wake of the incident, the police and the council conducted their investigation. The investigation ultimately determined that the cause of death wasn't related to the bull. Lally's devastated mother said that Lally had been planning to marry her partner and her death was heartbreaking. Number 8. Naima Ralston, Peyton Stewart, Aisha Wirham, and Deslyn Williams. 22-year-old California man Fraser Michael Baum, who was accused of mowing down 4 Pepperdine University students, was released on a $4 million bond after pleading not guilty to murder charges on October 17, 2023. Baum was allegedly involved in a road rage incident during which a male suspect gave chase and tried to push him off the side of the road. Baum accelerated to get away from him and eventually lost control of his red BMW along the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu. He swerved onto the shoulder of the road and slammed into 3 parked vehicles. Those vehicles consequently hit 4 women walking nearby on the side of the roadway. Witnesses claimed Baum tried to flee the scene after the collision, but he was apprehended by onlookers. The female victims, Peyton Stewart, Asha Weir, Deslyn Williams, all aged 21, and 20-year-old Naima Ralston were pronounced dead at the scene. At the time of the incident, Baum was taken into custody and charged with vehicular manslaughter with gross negligence. He was initially released, pending further investigation. Baum's attorney, Michael Kraut, said that the driver who'd chased Baum was identified and that the individual had admitted to a family member that they did drive Baum off the road. Kraut added that the defendant had to get away and reasonably drive at approximately 70 miles per hour. On October 24th, the young man was rearrested and charged with 4 counts of murder. Subsequent information indicated that Baum was awaiting his preliminary trial hearing. No further updates have been made as of Baum's release on October 27th. Number 7. Michael Raper. 26-year-old sausage factory worker Michael Raper suffered what the Daily Mail called a grisly end when he slipped and fell feet first into a meat grinder on July 12, 2011. Raper had been in charge of cleaning the grinder at the Bar S Foods plant in Lawton, Oklahoma. He slipped, fell, and got entangled in the huge auger, which chewed off his legs. Raper was stuck from the waist down for 2 excruciating hours before emergency workers were able to reach him. They used a forklift to stabilize the auger while cutting it in two, lifted up the auger and pulled Raper from the machinery. Raper was taken to Comanche County Memorial Hospital but died the following day. The incident prompted an investigation carried out by the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Bar S Foods said that they were cooperating and added that they have a positive record of safety practices. It never became clear what the outcome of the investigation was. Number 6. Incident at the Fossil Rim Wildlife Center. On October 12, 2023, a Texas family's car was significantly damaged when a giraffe fell on top of it at the Fossil Rim Wildlife Center in Glen Rose. Driver Carrie Hill, along with her 2 teen sons and infant granddaughter, had arrived at the wildlife conservation facility, she drove her Kia Sorento through the 1,800-acre facility and stopped close to a giraffe. The animal poked its head through the Sorrento's sunroof. At that point, Hill took a photo with the animal before it suddenly lost its balance and came tumbling down onto the vehicle's windshield. The windshield started caving in while the giraffe flayed around, attempting to get back up. After a few seconds, the long-necked creature regained its footing and ran off. Hill pulled her car off to the side, called the park's emergency hotline, and requested assistance. Her car was eventually towed away. Fossil Rim said that the incident was the first of its kind in their 11 years at the site. Fortunately, no one was injured during the freak accident, including the giraffe. However, the family car sustained nearly $4,200 in damages from the incident. Despite the scary encounter, Hill said she would revisit the park at some point. When asked about it, she answered, probably in someone else's car though. Number 5. Rachel Pig Hills. Watching my wife suffer and dying before my eyes is soul-destroying, said Englishman Guy Pighills after his wife Rachel suffered a debilitating injury. In August of 2018, Rachel, from Worcestershire, was moving into a new house when the spinning blades of a ceiling fan smashed her on the back of the head, causing catastrophic injuries. The woman was left wheelchair-bound due to rare conditions called atlantoaxial instability and bacillar invagination, which meant her brain was sinking into her spine as her skull dropped. The conditions prohibited her from turning her head in certain ways, as each time she did, her spine would partially dislocate, increasing the risk of paralysis or death. In January of 2020, she underwent occipital spinal fusion surgery to relieve the compression from her brain stem and improve her quality of life. Sadly, the doctor failed in the effort. Rachel and Guy spent years raising more than $430,000 for a pioneering treatment not available on the country's National Health Service. In 2022, the couple finally reached the milestone with the help of a Warwickshire woman who loaned them approximately $160,000. Rachel was too unwell to fly. As such, the couple took to the road in May of 2022. She was driven by her husband on a 17-hour, 1,055-mile journey to Barcelona, Spain, in a second-hand ambulance. Upon reaching Technon Hospital, Rachel underwent a 13.5-hour operation during which doctors inserted metal rods into her spine and reset her skull and brain stem. 6 months later, Rachel's condition improved. The 36-year-old could walk unaided without a neck brace for the first time in 4 years. Rachel said doctors in Barcelona had been left in awe by her progress, while her 42-year-old husband called it an absolute miracle. Number 4. Charles Hugh Crooks. An investigation into a young pilot's deadly fall concluded that he'd accidentally plummeted from the aircraft mid-flight in North Carolina after he allegedly went aft near the open ramp. 23-year-old Charles Hugh Crooks and the pilot in command had been flying for a private company that was dropping skydivers in a small field on July 29, 2022. While dropping off the skydivers, the 1983 CASA C212 came across an issue with its landing gear, forcing the pilot in command to notify air traffic control and change course to make an emergency landing at Raleigh-Durham International Airport. At that point, they were flying at approximately 3,500 feet, and the plane encountered moderate turbulence, causing Crooks to feel unwell. Investigators believe that Crooks departed the cockpit and walked towards the open ramp to vomit, but accidentally fell to his death. His body was later found in a Fuquay Varina backyard, hours after the pilot in command landed the plane safely. No drugs or alcohol were found in the victim's system at the time of his death, but officials said he'd broken multiple bones and damaged his heart, lungs, and other internal organs in the fall. Number 3. Diana Lynn Phelps. On the morning of September 11, 2023, an Indiana woman lost her life in a freak accident when a wheel from a passing pickup truck broke loose and smashed through her windshield. Shortly before 8 a.m. on the day in question, 68-year-old Diana Lynn Phelps was driving down the westbound lane of Interstate 70 near Indianapolis. when the left rear wheel broke off a Nissan pickup truck traveling in the eastbound lane. The New York Post reported that the dislodged wheel careened across the median and then bounced up into Phelps's SUV, causing the windshield to collapse in and the front end of the roof to tear away. She immediately lost control of the car and crashed through a fence. The impact caused her vehicle to travel around 300 feet before finally coming to rest on its side in a yard about 25 feet from a house near Coral and Wyoming streets. After a 911 call was placed by a witness, paramedics arrived at the scene to find Phelps unresponsive in her damaged car. They attempted to save her, but she died at the scene. The driver of the Nissan that lost its wheel was located by police. It was unclear if any charges would be pressed. Subsequent information indicated that reconstruction detectives were still investigating what had caused the wheel to come off. Today's topic was requested by None of Your Business 9441. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Olivia Kaiser. On February 5th, 2023, Love Island USA star Olivia Kaiser shared online photos of her broken nose after a freak accident. The incident took place while the 30-year-old was appearing in the 38th season finale of the reality show, The Challenge Ride or Die. Kaiser was first injured while participating in the show's bowler throwing competition. Her finger was sliced open, causing nerve exposure after a fastener being used in the challenge caught her finger. After getting treated by medics, Kaiser continued through the competition. Later in the competition, she was injured again during a slingshot challenge, which involved her using a sling to repeatedly hit a target with a ball. While aiming for the target, her injured hand slipped and inadvertently released the sling, causing the ball to ricochet and hit her straight in the face. Kaiser screamed in pain as medics responded. She was left with 2 black eyes covered in purple and yellow bruising and a huge bruise between her eyebrows. Her nose was split open at the bridge and covered in blood. Her injury stopped her from completing the competition. She was later taken to a hospital where she spent 2 nights. Her nose eventually healed after it was stitched up and reset. Following the incident, Kaiser posted online saying no one should be ashamed of a scar. It simply meant that you were stronger than whatever tried to hurt you. Stick around after number 1 if you want to watch our previous episode about when fleeing the scene of an accident goes wrong. Number 1. Ry Rosario. 36-year-old Ry Rosario died after slipping and falling off a treadmill at a gym in Kent, Washington State, on the morning of July 21, 2023. Witnesses claimed that while Rosario was working out at an LA Fitness on the day in question, she took a bad step on the treadmill and slipped forward, smashing her head into the front of the machine before slumping over and being tossed off the machine. Rosario was left unconscious and fellow gym goers immediately attempted to administer first aid to her. Moments later, emergency medical technicians and paramedics responded to the scene and treated Rosario before transferring her to an area hospital. Unfortunately, due to the bleeding in the brain that the woman had sustained from the fall, she died the following day. In the aftermath, the victim's sister, Marissa Woods, told Good Morning America that she wanted to share Rosario's story to spread awareness about the importance of knowing CPR, especially when in a fitness facility. Woods added that during the incident, gym staff just stood idly looking shocked. She further stated that if you work in a gym, the least you should know is CPR. Rosario had been registered as an organ donor, and Woods claimed that 5 people received potentially life-saving transplants thanks to Rosario's selflessness. An off-duty officer from the Shelbyville Police Department in Kentucky was killed in a hit-and-run collision during the early hours of August the 23rd of 2022. Court records revealed that 50-year-old Thomas Elmore was riding his motorcycle near Outer Loop in Louisville when he was suddenly struck by a car. The motorist, 28-year-old Ashley Catlett, had been attempting to make a left turn onto Briarcliff Road when she made contact with Elmore. The latter was thrown from his motorcycle and consequently died, but Catlett didn't stick around after the crash. She fled the scene on foot and eventually showed up at a friend's house nearby and asked him for help. Her purse, which contained her ID, was left inside her vehicle at the scene of the accident. The Louisville Police Department quickly identified Catlett and took her into custody. She was held at Louisville Metro Corrections on a $50,000 cash bond. Following her arrest, it emerged that Catlett had had several other run-ins with the law in the past, for which she previously faced charges of fourth-degree assault, domestic violence, as well as numerous drug-related offenses. Back in 2013, Catlett was charged with reckless driving for traveling more than 25 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. Number 5. Justin Seria. Shortly before 8 p.m. on March the 8th of 2017, Brevard County firefighter Justin Seria struck a Lexus along a residential street in Orlando, Florida. Although the man did pull over and speak with the driver whose car he hit, he refused to provide his license and insurance information, despite being asked to do so by a sheriff's deputy at the scene. The other motorist, who wasn't identified, claimed that Seria's breath smelled of alcohol and also accused the man of spitting his chewing gum at him and cursing him out while repeatedly proclaiming that he was a soldier and a firefighter. Seria eventually left the scene without fulfilling his legal obligations as a party to a car accident. A female state trooper was dispatched to his home later that evening after he'd already fallen asleep. As could be clearly heard on dash cam footage, Seria belittled the officer, saying to his fiancée, "She's just some girl, she's useless," then telling her to call a man here. The trooper subsequently informed the man that he was being charged for the earlier hit and run, at which point he became wholly uncooperative and backup was called to help with the arrest. Seria allegedly tried to bite one of the officers as he was being placed in handcuffs and led into the squad car. While en route to the county jail, he proceeded to hurl obscenities and insults at the police, telling them he was going to ruin their lives. During the following summer, Seria had his charges of leaving the scene of a crash and resisting an officer dropped, and he was allowed to keep his job with the Brevard County Fire Department. Number 4. ObiWan Kenobi. A California man went viral for his pop culture-themed name after he was arrested in May of 2012 in connection with a 5-car pileup in Roseville. Authorities said that the incident occurred on March the 19th at Fairway and Rose Hall Drives. 37-year-old ObiWan Kenobi reportedly plowed his green Toyota into 2 other cars as he tried to merge between them. The collision set off a chain reaction that came to involve an additional 2 vehicles. Kenobi fled the scene following the wreck and, after further investigation, was identified as the individual responsible. Officers arrested him at his home, after which he was taken to Placer County Jail in lieu of a $17,500 bond. The man was charged with hit and run causing injury and had also reportedly been wanted on an unrelated petty theft charge. At the time, in the wake of his arrest, many were interested in learning the origins of Kenobi's distinguished Star Wars-centric name. According to subsequent reports, the man, born Benjamin Cale Fyatt, changed his name back in 1999 as part of a $1,000 bet aired by a local radio station to promote the release of Star Wars Episode 1. In February of 2013, it was reported that Kenobi had found himself in trouble with the law yet again after a Roseville police officer found meth in his possession during a probation search. Number 3. Joanna Iino. 2 men were fatally struck by a passing car in Holtsville, a hamlet on Long Island, New York, at about 5:30 p.m. on May the 11th of 2022. At the time of the accident, 37-year-old Ryan Walker and Robert Kallenbeck, aged 46, were working on the engine of a 1989 Ford F-150 pickup truck that was parked outside the former's home on Express Drive South. Then suddenly, a vehicle being driven by Lake Ronkonkoma woman Joanna Iino crashed into the men, but the latter neglected to stop, instead fleeing the scene. Walker and Kallenbeck were subsequently rushed to Stony Brook University Hospital, but neither of them ultimately survived. 30-year-old Iino was arrested and charged with 2 counts of leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. She was arraigned in 1st District Court in Central Islip a few days later. A judge set her bail at $100,000. Number 2. Lucy Ashton. On a sunny Sunday morning in September of 2020, a group of locals from Sefton village in Merseyside, England came upon a severely injured cyclist near a pub on Lunt Road called the Punch Bowl. The victim, later identified as 31-year-old National Health Service employee Jennifer Dowd, was lying in the middle of the road in obvious critical condition. She was unconscious, bleeding, and the frame of her bicycle was completely buckled. Upon being taken to the hospital, Dowd was placed in a medically induced coma before succumbing to unsurvivable head injuries 9 days later. As local police kicked off their investigation, they received a call from 24-year-old Lucy Ashton, a care support worker, who indicated she might have been the one responsible for the deadly collision. As it would subsequently be revealed, Ashton had been fighting with her boyfriend until the early hours of the morning and consequently woke up late for work on the day of the crash. She admitted to being in a rush and not focused on her driving as she got behind the wheel of her Ford Focus and started on her route. It was a bright, dry, clear morning, and Ashton thus had trouble seeing the road because of the sun in her eyes. At some point, she struck Dowd on her bicycle. The driver claimed to have heard a bang, then looked in the rearview mirror and saw the cyclist. Rather than render aid to the victim, however, she panicked and drove away. Upon returning to the scene later, Ashton reported seeing loads of people, so she left once again to get her head together. She later phoned the police and ultimately confessed to her involvement in the tragedy. Following criminal proceedings at Liverpool Crown Court, Ashton was jailed for 12 months and also had her driving privileges revoked for a year. Number 1. Daniel Campbell. The police on Long Island, New York, broke up a house party in Amagansett on August the 10th of 2021. Some of the displaced partygoers subsequently began walking home down Timber Trail, a dark and winding two-way road with no streetlights or sidewalks, as a group that included 18-year-old Devesh Samtani and his cousin Kabir Korani made its way down the street. A car suddenly drove up behind them and grazed the young girl before making forceful impact with Samtani. The teen was flung into the air and landed a few feet onto the grass, bleeding and unconscious. He was rushed to Southampton Hospital before being transported to Stony Brook University Hospital, where he was left fighting for his life. Samtani had only arrived in the US from Hong Kong days earlier, as he awaited the start of his freshman year at New York University. Unfortunately, he succumbed to his injuries before being able to commence his collegiate career. Following the accident, the driver who struck Samtani, identified as Hastings-on-Hudson resident Daniel Campbell, decided not to call 911 and even allegedly made efforts to flee the state, which he later blamed on a panic attack triggered by repeated sports-related concussions. Campbell, who'd been visiting his parents in Montauk that night, had reportedly packed 9 passengers into his SUV and was distracted when he hit Samtani. When speaking with detectives, the young man confessed to his mistake, saying, "I know I should have stayed, but I freaked out," before going on to admit that when he looked at the damage to his car, he thought Samtani might be dead. In September of 2022, a plea deal was announced, which stipulated that Campbell would plead guilty to a felony charge of leaving the scene of an accident causing death. Suffolk County Judge Richard Ambro initially promised the young man that he would not have to face jail time despite the severity of the crime. The judge later went back on that decision, but only slightly, when he handed down a sentence of 90 days in jail plus 5 years probation. Samtani's family was understandably outraged by the lenient punishment, to which the teen's mother responded with, "Our child's life didn't matter. That's what we felt, that our son's life didn't matter." Thanks for watching. Would you rather die in a freak accident or be assassinated by a hired killer? Let us know in the comments section below.